What's going on, guys? This is the Edge DFS. We're doing Showdown for Monday Night Football. We got the Bills visiting the Patriots. My name is Tyson Smith. I'm joined by Ellie Hernandez. Ellie, how'd you do last night? We pretty much crushed that slate. AJ Dillon was, we were super heavy on AJ Dillon. We got a little lucky because Aaron Jones got hurt there for a little bit, but the bottom line was, even with Aaron Jones healthy, AJ Dillon still got a decent amount of touches, and it worked out really good. I mean, I think I got 26th place out of like 50,000 entries, so not bad. We needed a little bit of a few other things to happen for AJ Dillon to be the optimal captain. It turned out to obviously be Davante Adams, but I feel like we did a pretty good job on that slate. We pretty much nailed things. I thought it was gonna be a little bit closer of a game, so I went heavier on 4-2s and a couple 3-3s, which ended up hurting me. But overall, how'd you do last night? And if you're watching this, comment with how you guys did down below in the chat or in the comments. Whatever. If you're watching this during the premiere or if you're watching it after the fact, let us know how you guys did. If you guys had a lot of AJ Dillon, let us know. But how'd you do, Ellie?
Yeah, man, I did all right. I would have been in a lot better position if Robert Tonyan or Corey Davis did well at the captain spot.
Yeah.
I didn't have as much Dillon at that position than as you did. And I mean, look, Dillon himself saved my ass. So I think that was very important. That was the biggest thing that we called out on the show, right? Everybody knew who the core plays were from a total point perspective, but getting that cheap guy right was important. Now, I do want to point out one area that I did get wrong that you actually kind of hinted at a little bit was getting Equanimeous St. Brown in a lineup. He ended up being in the optimal.
Yeah.
And you were right? You had, if you were going to run Davante Adams a captain, you were to punt at two positions. It just so happened that those two positions ended up with one of them had 2 touchdowns, the other had 1. So it was necessary to do it with Davante. Yeah. But overall, I think we did a good job getting the pieces right that we needed and kind of getting your exposure balanced throughout so that you're not crushed if one lineup didn't hit. So overall, I think it went all right. It went a lot better than I thought it was going to go, considering who you had to fade somebody. But Aaron Jones not hitting kind of saved my ass too.
I mean, look, Aaron Jones still ended up in the optimal though.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So you had both quarterbacks, and this is what we talked about. If you can get both quarterbacks, it's probably ideal. But you had Davante Adams, Aaron Rodgers, AJ Dillon, which, by the way, that deserves one of these.
Dillon! You son of a bitch.
And you had Tannehill, Aaron Jones, and then Equanimeous St. Brown, which I think he had 1 target, 1 reception, and a touchdown. So look, you're gonna need if you're putting Davante Adams in the captain, that's just how it's gonna go. Like I said, you're gonna have to punt at 2 positions, and AJ Dillon and St. Brown in the same lineup I would consider that a double punt. So it worked out. It worked out for some people, but it was heavily duped. So no one was taking home like a ton of money, which is why we sometimes try to avoid using those guys in the captain, because it's going to be really hard to be different. And there's usually a couple of lineup builds that you can actually do, and those will be highly duped. So anyways, anything else to talk about with that slate? Anything you learned before we move on to Bills versus Patriots?
I learned that that's probably going to be the last good primetime game we get.
Could be. All right, so let's move over to this particular game. For the Patriots, there's not a whole lot going on for them. They're just trying to get through this season. Buffalo is favored by 7.5 on the road. They're minus 360 favorites and 27.25 implied total for a total over under of 47. And if you look at the ownership there, is heavily skewed towards Buffalo, and I'm gonna probably be right along with that, because to me, New England really doesn't have a chance here. Buffalo really needs to win this game. They have a chance of dropping into the 4th seed, I believe, in the AFC, and they don't want that. So they really have a lot to play for, specifically this game, and then I think next week they'll still have a lot to play for, which is nice. At least Buffalo hasn't, clinched its best position, and this game is completely useless. So what do you think here? I think Buffalo, this could be like sort of a trap game if you think about it, going against New England. New England's been terrible. This could be one of those little trap games where New England can come out, they're loose, they have nothing to play for, there's really no pressure on them. So maybe they come out and have a above average output of points scored. I just don't see it, in my opinion. Like, to me, 5-1 Buffalo stacks, 4-2 Buffalo stacks, that's what I'm going to focus on. I just don't see New England being able to put up the points. Look, if they score 3 touchdowns, you're gonna need to find those 3 touchdowns from New England and put them in your lineup. So the question here is, Ellie, is there any reason to think that New England has a shot? And can we do any 3-3 stacks? Can we actually get more New England players than the field is getting?
Yeah, man, I definitely think it's in play. The problem with the Patriots is we never know who we're going to get when this team comes out to play. I think I agree with all the Vegas line here, but the only thing that I do want to call out is this is, again, a division rivalry. If I know Bill Belichick at all, I'm sure he's a little annoyed that he's not getting that 36th year of the division title.
Yeah.
And they have a unique opportunity to play spoiler on the seeding, right? If New England wins this game, there is a good opportunity that the Bills drop down to 4th in the seeding. They're tied with, or the Colts, I think, have the tiebreaker, and then Pittsburgh would be number 2. So, or maybe it's the Titans. I don't know. Anyways, there's still a lot going on there. But look, I think there is an opportunity that New England can be a little bit more competitive than we anticipated. But again, I don't know how much I'm going to adjust my lineups for that. That may be 2 or 3 of my total lineups that I submit is kind of game planning for that. Other than that, I think 4-2 or 5-1 is probably going to be the way to go.
So let's move over to the injury side of the ball here, or side of things. For Buffalo, we've got John Brown. He's questionable with an ankle injury. He has the potential to be activated off the IR for this game, and we'll get into him in a minute, but his pricing seems to be the best value on the slate at $2,800. And if we're going to want to jam in all the best players from Buffalo and possibly get Cam Newton on the other side, we're going to want to think about getting John Brown in this game because of the value. It's a risky play. We just don't know how much he's going to play. It's definitely a wild card here. But when he's healthy, he's the number 2 option on this team. So we'll get into the wide receivers here in a minute. But consider John Brown, the news on him being activated, as really important news today, and something that I'm not even going to start building until I hear whether he's playing or not. That's just how I'm going to handle it because it changes everything. So if we look at New England side here, Damian Harris is questionable with an ankle. So I personally am not going to, I don't love Harris or Sony Michel in this game, but if Harris is out, I think you can at least consider playing Sony Michel potentially. But if they're both active, I don't know where to go with this, to be honest. So Ellie, what jumps out to you here injury news wise for both teams?
Yeah, again, John Brown is going to be a really important piece. He's just priced too cheap to not want to get some exposure to if he plays. And if he does play, he's going to mud up the water on the Bills side of the ball too. So I think we're going to have a decent spread in ownership, and it might kind of help some of the core plays here a little bit and take some of the ownership off of them. On the other side of the ball with Damian Harris, look, I'll be honest. I like Damian Harris if he plays. If he doesn't, I think it opens up some opportunities for these other running backs. The weakness in this defense is probably going to be their run game. They have a little bit better secondary on the Bills, so I would expect them to do a little bit better there. But New England wants to run the ball. They want to run it with Cam. They want to run it with literally anybody they got back there. So I think they're all in play.
Yeah.
Again, if Damian Harris is out, though, that gives massive boost to guys like James White in particular. So these are both very important situations to watch for the night. I'm not going to build until I have the news, though.
Yeah. And something to keep an eye on here with, the Patriots. Do they play some of these younger guys here? And another thing to consider here, too, is there's been some controversy around Cam Newton, is he going to get to start? I think he will, but I don't think that is a question mark here as far as whether he will start the game. The biggest question is if you have him in 50 or 60% of your lineups and he gets benched in the third quarter, you are screwed. So this is something to keep an eye on here with this team. We've seen it in the past. We've seen Cam Newton come out and barely be able to throw the ball. Looks like his shoulder is completely destroyed. When you see his motion, he just cannot throw the ball. I think he has 6 touchdowns this year, passing touchdowns. Yeah, he's got a handful. He's got a good amount of rushing touchdowns. But we're talking about a quarterback they need to score 28 points in this game just to even have a chance to be close, because this Bills offense is high powered. Josh Allen himself could probably outscore the entire team in rushing touchdowns just on his own. When it comes to Josh Allen versus the Patriots, he can probably outscore him on his own. So the question here is, we have to consider the fact. I'm not saying to play Jarrett Stidham as like a punt play. I'm not saying that, because even if Jarrett Stidham does play, I don't like him in this game. But the question is, can we just fade Cam Newton and go with James White and Jacoby Myers as your two or possibly one Patriots player here instead of getting Cam Newton? Because there is a shot, yeah, Cam Newton can have a touchdown rush, but at that salary, if he gets benched, it could be devastating. So keep an eye on that. And actually, we're going to move over to our horse's mouth segment here and talk about some things here. So let's hear from Bill Belichick. This is going to be a good one.
I just want to know from the horse's mouth, what is the dealio?
All right, so they, obviously Belichick is an interesting interview here.
Hey, Bill, with this being the first practice of the week and you guys going through your meetings the last couple days, were you sticking with Cam at quarterback?
Yeah. Mike, we're not answering that question every day. We've been through this for a month.
Totally respect that. I think just with the circumstances changing over the last couple days with the playoffs, that's why I asked. How about
if I let you know if we're going to make a change?
That sounds good to me. Is it partly due to competitive reasons that you don't want to let the Bills know?
Any questions on Buffalo, Mike?
Good, thanks, Bill.
Oh, I love it. So, look, the bottom line here, I guess the reporter, this poor guy, he's trying to be as fucking nice as he possibly can. But he's trying to ask, look, there's no point, your season's done. Like, can you fit in some other guys into these positions just to see what you have? And I think that's an interesting take on this slate, because a lot of these players that we might not consider in the past, like on the wide receiver side or running back side, we might have to take a look at potentially getting some extra snaps here, because does this game really matter? Do they want to evaluate people? We just don't know. That's why whenever I see the Patriots on a showdown slate, I cringe, and I almost want to withdraw my entries because it's just such a wild card. So I don't know. What do you think about any of that information? I know it's all coach speak here, but what do you think about that?
I don't know, man. I'm with you. I just don't know about the Patriots in general when it comes to them having these weird ass rotations, just a running back, and then adding this in. It just gives me more reason to not want to play anybody from the Patriots, to be honest with you.
Totally.
And I'm more inclined to just withdraw as well.
Yeah.
I think this is a good slate to maybe run a single entry and maybe focus on it the 5-game NBA slate. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, we're not trying to tell if you guys have a good idea as to how this a good grasp on the Patriots better than us, then by all means you can find an edge tonight. If you have that edge, then use it. But me personally, we just don't know what's like. I'll still do my same amount of lineups tonight, but I'm more likely to just not actually micromanage those lineups as much. I'm gonna crunch out. I'm gonna bring it into Excel. I'm gonna look at like the best numbers, and I'm not even necessarily, after I set my rules, I might not even look at the lineups. I might just copy paste them over in the CSV and be like, okay, where am I at? because
Right.
it doesn't matter. Like there's no way to predict this shit. From the Buffalo side of things, we can, but if I get 80% Jacoby Myers and 0% Cam Newton, I'm just going to embrace it. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm just saying, like, I'm going to have to embrace that. So let's hear from Sean McDermott about John Brown, another sort of dry interviewee here. But he's talking a little bit about John Brown because we need to know this guy's been out for a minute, and he's the number 2 wide receiver, and he's super cheap.
Yeah, Mark on here. Just for the record, injuries, John Brown, just how is he doing? And, if he were to practice well all week, would you play him?
Yeah, like last week, we brought John up to practice and we watched and evaluated, and we'll continue to do that this week. So nothing really changed. No change right now with John's situation.
So just full disclosure, this was before Christmas. So this was a few days ago. So if you're seeing on Twitter any, hints about what's going to happen with John Brown, obviously comment and let us know. But I haven't been able to find anything definitive. It's just going to be one of those things where we got to wait till 90 minutes before lock and see if he's active. I mean, throughout the day, sometimes there'll be some reports from some beat writers or something on Twitter where you can get a little bit better hint as to whether or not he's going to play. But I think it's literally the keystone of my lineups is figuring out if he's in or not. Because if he is, that changes a lot. And if he's out, it changes a lot too, because you got the other, you got Cole Beasley, you've got McKenzie, you've got Gabriel Davis. Those are all pretty decent options without John Brown. But if John Brown plays, how does that affect it? So anyways, we'll move on. We're going to get into the breakdown here. We're going to add a little bit of a different element here. I want to look at some prop bets and some things like that in order to give us a kind of a better idea as to what we're actually dealing with from the Patriots side of the ball and see what Vegas thinks about some of this stuff. So let's hit it. Break it down. All right. So look, this is for anytime touchdown scorer, Cam Newton is at minus 134. He has the best odds. If we convert that over, he's got about a 57%, according to Vegas, about a 57% chance of scoring a touchdown in this game at any time. And the next best is Stephon Diggs at 120, which is a 45% chance. So that's a big gap there. So when I see that, obviously that makes me think, look, I got to try to get Cam Newton as my 1 or 2 guys in there, because if he's going to be responsible for 1 or 2 of these touchdowns, you got to have him. But I am worried about him getting pulled. Like, am I overthinking this, dude?
No, I don't think you are, because if you go to the next one of the next tabs here, go to touchdown passes there.
Yeah.
Cam Newton, I mean, he's minus 275 for under 1.5. So,
oh yeah, there you go.
I mean, that one touchdown you're looking at, they're pretty much assuming he's going to get a rushing touchdown, and that's going to be his fucking day.
Yeah.
I mean, look, scored 2+ touchdowns,
and look, passing yards too. His over under is at 169.5.
Yeah, and I get that that's kind of just where the Vegas money is, but at this. I just don't see that he's going to be able to get there unless he has 2 rushing upside potential. I don't know how viable he is at the position. I mean, from what we can tell, it looks like I was perusing through the Draftkings sportsbook a little bit here, trying to get a feel for who to play in the flex even, right? Yeah. And it looks like James White, he's got the best odds on getting a decent amount of receptions. It looks like he's got decent odds on getting over 20 rushing yards. So those are things that I would take into account to a slate like this. I mean, he's minus 177 for over 2.5 receptions. Yeah. For running back, I mean, that's not bad at all. If he gets 3 receptions with 30 yards, that's 6 points. And then he gets even 2 carries for 20 yards. You got 8 right there. And we've seen him get red zone targets too. So yeah. I think this is an interesting way to kind of look at this, and I think we can start using this tool a little bit more moving forward to kind of get ideas on some of these slates where we just don't have one.
This is what we do when we for MMA, when we're looking at first round KO odds, methods of win. Like, this really helps you kind of differentiate, because if you look at Stephon Diggs here, he's got a minus 167 odds. to hit over 6.5 receptions. And you've got Cole Beasley, who's over 4.5, and he's at a minus 143. So if you look at, generally speaking, the Patriots wide receivers, more likely to hit the under on their over-unders here. But yeah, James White at minus 177 for those receptions is, I mean, look, it's only like 3 receptions potentially, but we're going to have to find scoring somewhere from the Patriots. When it comes to rushing yards, this is a little interesting here. So if we're trying to figure out Zach Moss versus Singletary, looks like, and you can see this just based on, rushing attempts, is pretty straightforward. Zach Moss is sort of taken over as the guy who gets the carries, and Devin Singletary is getting a little bit more when it comes to receptions. So you look at, let's see, what do we got here? Yards, is that rushing yards? So Zach Moss at 44.5, and Devin Singletary at 35.5. Something to keep an eye on. Anything else to look at here before we move over?
No, I think I'm going to keep mine up so that we can kind of keep talking about it when we get to the running backs, because I think this is really going to help us get through the Damian Harris, Sony Michel type debate,
So one interesting thing here before we move on, if you look at Jacoby Myers, he's at over 51.5 receiving yards at minus 112. And then if you look at Cole Beasley, he's at over 50.5 at minus 125. So that's actually kind of interesting. They're basically giving us, saying that Cole Beasley and Jacoby Myers could potentially end up with, they're similar when it comes to that receiving over under, and the odds are relatively close. So like, you could, if you go Jacoby Myers over Cole Beasley in this game and stick with Diggs and sort of fade Beasley, maybe that's not the worst option ever. All right, so let's move over to Fantasy Cruncher here. We're going to go position by position. Before we do that, if you guys wouldn't mind throwing us a like on this video. We've been getting a lot of support lately. We really appreciate it. Get us up to 20 likes here. We're a new channel. Help us out. If we helped you win any money or given you guys any value, just give us a like. That's all we're asking. We really appreciate it. All right, so let's move over to quarterbacks here. Josh Allen is 12.6K for Buffalo. I don't think there's any reason to ever not have this guy at either captain or in the flex in every single one of your lineups. Doesn't matter how many lineups you're doing. It would be hard to see that Josh Allen wouldn't be in the optimal lineup in some way. I'm likely to fade him at captain simply because he's going to be potentially 25% owned in the captain. He's like going to be double the nearest owned in the captain. He might even hit 30%. And if that's the case, I'm just not going to play him at captain because you got to punt at 3 positions, especially at 12.6K. You're going to have to punt at 3 different positions, and I don't want to do that. So Josh Allen at 12.6K, Cam Newton at 9K. That's a great price for Cam Newton. I mean, he's been trending down lately, but we've seen him get up to 12.6. We've seen him get up to 13K on showdown slates. So considering he's, 3,600 cheaper than Josh Allen, how do we handle Cam Newton here? He's going to be the second or third. He's probably going to be the 3rd highest owned on the slate. I won't play him at captain because he's still 15% at captain. But in the flex, it's going to be interesting. I don't know that I want to go too heavy on him because I'm just personally worried that he's going to have a bad game and they're just going to say, sit your ass down. We're done with you.
Yeah, man. Honestly, I might go back and see if I can get a little bit of game film in just to watch him from previous weeks. Just, excuse me. I haven't seen anything too impressive from this, from Cam Newton's performances overall. I just don't know if I'm going to have that exposure to him. And if he's coming in as one of the chalkiest players, I mean, that just screams easy fade for me.
Yeah, I mean, look at these numbers, dude. Look at these. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but man, this is pathetic.
Right. I mean, look, they fell off. Like, you have a couple of games there where 19, 24, 16, right? You have some games you're doing okay, but that floor of 2, 5, 5.9, right? That shit's not going to fly. 12.16, right? If I'm paying 9K for you, you need to have a floor of pretty much 10, 12 points, right? Especially at the quarterback position.
Yeah.
So I'm going to probably have the field on this. I'll have some exposure just because, that there is that opportunity. It's 2 rushing touchdowns. Excuse me. And he can still get there somehow, but I just not enough to go even with the public on this particular one.
Look,
Josh Allen is a stone cold lock for me.
yeah.
He'll be in every single lineup I have. I think the only concern that I do have is, if they're up 35-7 by halftime, we could see a very limited Josh Allen in the second half. But again, the only thing to consider there is you need to figure out how they got to 35. What point total are you seeing from Buffalo that makes them less likely to play Allen, and how much of that production comes from Allen himself?
Yeah.
So even in a scenario like that, it's still scary to me to fade him. Look, if you guys are uncomfortable doing what we do and go balls out at the captain position, sure, play Josh Allen. If you think you know how to find a way to get those 3 punts in there that are safe, there is a good chance that he will be the optimal captain. But you're going to tie with 200 other people, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the point we're trying to get at. If you're uncomfortable doing what we do, then by all means play him there if you're going to profit. But again, you're just going to have to dig so much deeper into the randomness that is this bullshit Patriots team.
Yeah.
So I'm going to lock him in the flex and then kind of see where the chips fall from there.
I'm more likely to... Bills not expected to activate John Brown before Monday's game. Good fucking timing. Thank you, Roto Grinders. So there it is. We know now. So you guys don't have to wait. Doesn't seem like John Brown's going to play, so we'll treat the rest of this video as if he's not playing. I guess what I was saying was I'm more likely to just go, middle ownership, not crazy low ownership, but maybe 7%, maybe even 10% this week, and embrace the randomness in the flex because we just don't know what's going to happen with the Patriots. And I'm more likely to just say, you know what? If Cam Newton beats me this week with a 25-point output or something, then it is what it is. But I think you can, the third highest owned player on the slate, fading him, and this guy can potentially get benched at halftime if they're losing. Like that, to me, is a very juicy fade, and I actually kind of like that. I know we'll get to our fade of the nights here in a minute, but yeah, just think about that as we're talking about maybe our roster construction, fading Newton and embracing someone else from the Patriots. All right, so let's move over to running backs here. Let's start with the Patriots, get that over with, because this is not something I enjoy talking about. We've got James White at 6,200. Damian Harris is questionable. He's at 8,400, and you got Sony Michel at 700. So to me, and I think the field agrees with me, James White will be the most popular running back here. I don't think that's any sort of hot take, but at 6,200, potentially playing down by multiple touchdowns, Cam Newton can't throw the ball more than 14 yards. James White seems like the guy who can get you 6-7 receptions, 60 yards, and a touchdown sort of a thing. So do you like James White as your number one option here? If Harris sits, is Sony Michel a nice leverage play?
Yeah, I think James White is in a pretty fantastic spot. I don't know if he quite deserves a 6,200 price tag given the way that he's performed this season. So I'm not going to come in heavier than the field. I'll probably be slightly under, just given his performances tend to cap out around 13, 14 points. And, he has some pretty bad games in there as well. The thing that gives him his value is the PPR upside in Draftkings. Obviously, if this is FanDuel, give a shit about it. You're probably more interested in Sony Michel. But yeah, I mean, look, he's had a 15-point game, 14-3, 14-7. Everything else has been under really 6 points, except for last week where he had 9.5. So, I definitely think he's in play here. Again, this is another one of those plays that the public's going to be all over it. I think it's easy leverage that you get by not necessarily having to get to James White.
Yeah.
Personally, if I have to take a running back from this backfield situation, I'm taking the old boy from Alabama, Damian Harris.
You son of a bitch.
Yeah, I mean, look, Damian Harris is going to get the work, he's going to get the workhorse load. And I think he has the highest upside. I mean, even at 11 to 15 attempts, he's still going to get 70 to 80 rushing yards. Now, I think one of the things that we really need to be aware of is exactly what you said, is why are we going to focus much on the running backs at all if we expect this team to be down and playing from behind? That does give James White a bit of a boost, and I'm sure Damian Harris will get involved in the passing game a little bit. But I think that just brings more attention to Cam Newton, and we need to see what his attempts look like. I mean, he threw the ball 27 times last week, so if that's going to happen again this week, I don't necessarily see that the running backs are going to have the upside that we need to get there. So I like James White a little bit. I like Damian Harris a little bit. But I probably won't have more than 40% of my lineups with the running back. If Damian Harris is out, Sonny Michel is interesting, but again, he is not going to get involved in the passing game at all. So you lose that reception upside.
All right, let's move over to the running backs. We're going to get through this breakdown a little bit quicker because we want to spend a little bit more time actually building lineups. I know that a lot of times if you don't have time to watch this whole show, we're going to get a lot of people skipping to the lineup build. So we're going to spend a little bit more time on that and reiterating some of our points that we brought up throughout the video. So we're moving over to the Bills side of things here. We got Devin Singletary at 7,600, Zach Moss at 7,400. Minus Devin Singletary's garbage time touchdown, he wasn't really getting there. That was that showdown game against Denver where he had that long ass touchdown there at the end. Pretty lucky garbage time touchdown. That's sort of a situation where he really got lucky to get there, and I had him in a lot of my lineups, so I really liked that. But he wasn't getting there the whole game. They were utilizing Zach Moss. Zach Moss a few games ago had a fumble in the first quarter, and he was pretty much benched the whole time. So Devin Singletary got the carries. The next game, Zach Moss actually ended up getting more snaps. So this is a very interesting situation here. You have a team that's favored by 7.5. Relatively cold weather. Both of these running backs, I think, can get you there. And I'm not afraid to play one of these guys in the captain and put, the other guy in the flex. Considering in the third quarter, this team might be up by 2 or 3 touchdowns. They're going to want to run the ball a lot more in this particular case. Ellie, I need to check on something. Talk to me about Devin Singletary. I'll be back in 30 seconds.
Yeah. I like Devin Singletary a lot. I think he's going to continue to get an increased workload with the playoffs fast approaching. You want to get both of your running backs on a tear if you possibly can. So I think Zach Moss getting his workload in the actual run game and Devin Singletary getting some catches out of the backfield should help give the Bills a boost that they really haven't seen much of this season. They're continuously relying upon the output and the production of God damn it, Josh Allen, right? How did I forget his name? So I think it would be nice for them to get a little bit of Devin Singletary and Zach Moss action going. I definitely think you can play both. I wouldn't play both in the same lineup, but that's really how I'm going to approach this situation. I think Devin Singletary's got plenty of upside. And again, he did get there in garbage time with that long ass touchdown, but garbage time points happen, right? So I mean, even if we wanted to exclude that, we can't because it comes up in the final, the final stats. So yeah, those are things to be mindful of. If Devin Singletary is going to get the run out at the end of the game, then he could be picking up an additional 20 yards. He might, Todd Gurley it and fucking run in the end zone without meaning to. Yeah. So there's plenty of reasons to pay attention to these guys. But again, I think both are in play, but just not in the same lineup.
Yeah, I hear that. I think you would definitely be unique. It's ballsy, but if you're running a highly owned guy in the captain, Singletary and Moss with that particular game script could be interesting. If we look at, last week, let's see, they were, that was a blowout win, and it seemed to me like Devin Singletary. I'm sure you brought this up because I kind of heard the end of your point there. It seemed like Devin Singletary was getting those blowout snaps. He got 60% of the snaps, and Zach Moss got 45 total in that game. So to me, if we're projecting this to be a blowout, I'm going to give Devin Singletary a little bit of a boost because I think he'll get those garbage time carries. But Zach Moss to me is the number one option on this team. The interesting thing to me is Singletary is getting more receptions, he's getting more routes run, he's getting more targets. So it's very difficult to decipher these two guys. I think the hot hand is going to win it, and I just don't know who the hot hand is going to be. I actually I know Ellie, you're not huge on playing both these guys together, but I think around 20% ownership in the flex, you could really be different by playing both of these guys together, simply based on the game script of this is going to be a blowout. They're going to get a lot of carries in, and you might get some garbage time, third down receptions from Singletary. All right, so let's move over to wide receivers for Buffalo. Stephon Diggs at 11K straight up. It's a fair price for him. It's it's right around the Devontae Adams price. This guy's a dominant wide receiver. He's what is he, number 1 in receptions so far this year? He's up there when it comes to total yards. He's up there when it comes to total touchdowns. This guy's a star. So Stephon Diggs at 11K, I don't have a problem with putting him in every lineup. I know we talked about, look, this could be a blowout. Maybe he doesn't get run. We're not trying to predict or project blowouts, but it's something you have to talk about in football. It's just something you have to talk about because garbage time is a big deal. And Stephon Diggs, he can still get you there in 3 quarters. He can still get you 2 touchdowns,
Yeah, so hear this. Stephon Diggs is minus 167 for over 6.5 catches, and he is minus 118 for over 85.5 yards. So even if you are predicting a blowout, odds are he's still going to get you there in pretty decent fashion. If he puts up just those numbers, 15 at his price tag, there is a good chance that he's going to be required for the optimal.
Yeah. So the big question here, obviously, we're going to get rid of John Brown. If for some reason he does play, he's a great option, but we're not even going to talk about him anymore because I don't think he's playing. So Cole Beasley at 10K. Look, Cole Beasley has done well this year. He's inconsistent. Every time I feel like he's chalk, he sucks, and then he comes back and has a great game. The dude's going to get 10 targets, at least in most cases, every game. He's going to get you 5 to 10 receptions and possibly 100 yards. Most likely won't get you a touchdown, but he can score. I think he's got, 4 touchdowns this year. So, look, what are your thoughts on Cole Beasley? I'm more likely to fade Cole Beasley. I just don't think he has that upside. If I had to choose between Diggs and Beasley, I'm choosing Diggs every time, right?
Yeah, honestly, I'm 100% on with you, right? I think in the flex position, Cole Beasley is probably going to be the position that I have to fade just because of how expensive he is.
Yeah.
But given the way that this slate's kind of turning out to be, I think he makes for a very interesting captain.
Yeah.
Yes, he's a little bit more expensive than I like, but if he gets one of these 9 reception, 130-yard games and a touchdown, I mean, he's going to be fairly unique at that position or at the captain spot that I think you're getting similar output and production that you might get from Stephon Diggs. Now, that's a big might. I understand that, but I don't know. I kind of like him at captain. Just given, and this is just a pure leverage play. Given his projected ownership at the spot, I do think he is a viable option to be a captain. Now, remember, we are going to be punting a little bit there because that lineup is still going to have Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can go without having those 2 in there, but I do think he makes an interesting captain play, just the amount of sheer volume it gets. And we saw it last week. Garbage time, when Josh Allen may not be getting it off to other players in time, right? He seems to have this real safety net with Cole Beasley, and Cole Beasley just gets the job done. He'll rattle off 6 receptions back to back, and then won't do anything for the next 20 minutes of the game. So I think his output comes in bursts, and it's worth having a little bit of exposure at the captain spot because sometimes those bursts, they're volatile enough, and we saw that in his weekly output. They're volatile enough to get you an optimal captain play at times. So I think he's worth it at the captain spot. A little expensive for me in the flex because he's going to be expensive and chalky.
I think it's totally true, man. Like I wouldn't call him boom or bust. We talked about this with MVS the other day for that slate. Like I didn't play almost any MVS in the flex. I had a little bit, but I mostly only played him at captain because he has those boom or bust outputs, and that's where you really can get the value at captain there more so than in the flex. Now this is a different player. I'm comparing it only because I feel like you're totally right. Cole Beasley, he can have you a 30-point game or a 5-point game. It's just hard to tell. So I'm going to fade him in the flex because I think he's going to be over-owned. He's only $1,000 cheaper than Stephon Diggs. I think you have Diggs. You're going to have Diggs, Beasley, Allen lineups all over the place. I think that'll be the most popular roster construction. And then depending on the captain, probably Allen. So to me, I'd rather just play him in, maybe 10% of my lineups at captain, and then just if he goes off, just hope that those 10% or 15% of those lineups actually I can cash with those. So look, to me, Gabriel Davis is really interesting here at 5,000. I think he's going to be forgotten about. His ownership will increase slightly with the John Brown news, obviously, but still, he's at 5,000. It's going to be hard. This is sort of a stars and scrubs day, I feel like, roster construction wise. So a guy at 5,000 might just get forgotten about. Right now, he's being projected under 15% ownership. It'll go up as we get closer. But Gabriel Davis is a guy, to me, I might even consider him in the captain here because we've seen him have some decent output here. Let me bring back this up here. So Gabriel Davis is the kind of guy that can get you. I mean, look, he's got, at one point he had a touchdown in 3 straight games. He has 5 touchdowns this year, 6 touchdowns this year. He's a rookie. They really want to get him involved. He has, to me, I like him much better. Like, this is a nice pivot to go from Beasley to Davis at like 1/3 of the ownership. And in fact, I might consider a lot of him at captain now that we've lost our value with John Brown. You get more opportunities for Gabriel Davis, and at 5K, plugging him into the captain, I can get everybody else that I want in the flex. And then Isaiah McKenzie's 800. I think he gets a little bit of a boost. This is the kind of guy that'll get you 2 receptions for 30 yards and a touchdown as a ceiling. But like with John Brown out, I think you're going to have to find other options here on the low end. At $800, he's definitely worth considering. So tell me about Gabriel Davis, dude. I know you've been high on him this season so far. You got to give him a huge boost with John Brown out, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And at 5K, I think you're dead on too. I think he makes an interesting captain play. Again, this is a guy that it's a boom or bust play, I think, more specifically. He's an okay option at the flex. Given his price tag at 5K, I think he can get 10, 12 points. But I think he's very interesting. He's very interesting as a captain. I mean, he does have the ability to catch 2 or 3 passes and take it to the house for 60, 70 yards, right? So that's what you're looking for in that kind of a play. Yeah, I mean, look, man, I'm sure the viewers have been watching the Showdown Bills all season long. They're probably pretty sick of hearing us on this one. It's pretty simple, guys. I mean, you want Josh Allen in whatever pieces of this passing attack you can get. Even Isaiah McKenzie isn't out of the question here.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he had the Bills had a total of fucking 6 penalties on 2 back-to-back drives last week.
Yes.
That called back multiple touchdowns, right?
Yeah.
Isaiah McKenzie had one of those, and
Yeah.
it was like the 28-yard reception.
Yeah.
So I think that's stuff to be aware of, right? They're trying to get him involved in gadget plays, especially with John Brown being out. So I think he's a very viable. And let's see, what did they drop him down to? Yeah, he's back down to $800. Is where he should be. So I mean, I think he becomes a much more interesting play. He was 2K last week.
Yeah.
So if we're looking at somebody, I think those 2 guys being so cheap. I mean, look, dude, how much are these guys on the Patriots side of the ball? I mean, Demir Bird, he's 4K shit. But Jacoby Myers at 7.2, like, I don't know, man. I might just rather go down to Gabriel Davis and save some of that salary elsewhere. But we'll get into that breakdown here shortly. I think all five of these, or no, John Brown's out. All four of these guys are 100% in play. And just, you're going to have to build enough variations to jam in all the guys that you want, I think.
Well, let's just put it this way. I like Isaiah McKenzie better than Equiminius St. Brown. Like, much better. So if we were considering St. Brown yesterday, and St. Brown was the guy that got you into the optimal, Isaiah McKenzie is that kind of guy. And I'm not scared to get Gabriel Davis, McKenzie, and Stephon Diggs in the lineup together. Yeah. I'm not scared at all, because that will be unique. McKenzie's potentially under 10% owned. Those are the kind of guys, if they score a touchdown, that'll get you first place. And that's all we care about doing here. So New England side, 7,200 for Jacoby Myers. He's clearly the number one option here. Jacoby Myers is not a bad play. I would consider playing him in a majority of my lineups. Only thing that scares me is, Cam Newton. They might pull. I just don't know what's going to happen. But he's probably the guy I'm most comfortable playing in this game, simply because of his targets. If he ends up with 10, 13 fantasy points, he could be the highest scoring player from the Patriots. It's possible. I know it sounds crazy, but if you get you 7 receptions for 111 yards with no touchdowns, he still can get you there. And at 7,400, he'll be the second highest owned Patriots player. So, look, it's worth potentially maybe having a few lineups without him, but I'm more likely to say, look, Jacoby Myers is the highest projected guy from this team besides Cam Newton. And he's actually right there. He's actually only a few points projected less than Cam Newton. So I like Jacoby Myers the most. Demir Bird is a great option at 4K. N'Keal Harry, don't love him. 3,200. I think his output is just not enough. N'Keal Harry just hasn't gotten there this year. He's gotten a couple touchdowns this season, 2. A few fantasy points, a few games over 10 fantasy points, but to me, that's just not going to get you there this week. And I don't know if I'm going to consider Gunnar Olszewski, but like I said, anybody in this game can go off for the Patriots because we just don't know who they're going to prioritize using. They might not. Look, N'Keal Harry, I think they're done with N'Keal Harry. I think they're going to either cut him, they're going to try to trade him for something. Like, there's been rumors about they just don't want him anymore. You got a first-round pick as your third wide receiver with a bunch of dudes who probably were undrafted. I don't remember if Jacoby Myers was even drafted. I don't know if Demir Bird was even drafted. The point here is N'Keal Harry might just sit on the bench for this game. They've seen enough from him. They might not even want to use him. And the worse he plays, the less trade offers they're going to get for him. So look, Gunnar could get some extra snaps at wide receiver. We just don't know. So I would set a rule here to max at one of these guys, maybe 2. I don't know, to be honest. How do you handle this, dude?
Yeah, look, I'm not getting any Gunnar. I might have a little bit of Harry, but again, I'm going to be pretty dead set on Bird and Myers. I think those two are kind of priced down given the fact that they are very capable of putting up points.
Yeah.
Demir Bird, again, he's a faster guy, right? So he adds a dimension that they don't necessarily have. The problem is can fucking noodle arm Cam Newton throw that goddamn far?
Yeah.
So I just don't think he has the ability to do it anymore. I think we've seen him miss a couple of these touchdowns so far this season. So that does scare me a little bit. But at 4K, Demir Bird's definitely in play. And then Jacoby Myers, he has the ability to get you there just because he has so many volumes and attempts coming his way. He could finish the day with 13 receptions for 24 yards, right? And at 7,200, that's 15 and a half points. So that's something I definitely look at. But as far as N'Keal Harry, Gunnar, just Gunnar for me. That's fine. Dante Moncrief. I don't even know if he's in everyone's player pool, but I just don't want any of these guys. Yeah. Exactly. Like Myers and Bird, that's all I want exposure to. Everything else I think is just too risky.
I can see it now. I'm going to build today. I'm going to have 40-something lineups. And, Jacoby Myers is going to be in 87% of my lineups, and I'm going to go, what the fuck? What was I thinking? But I'm not confident in anybody else on this entire team. And DraftKings makes you play at least one player from the opposing team, so we got to play somebody. You know what I mean?
Bro, and watch, it's be Dante Moncrief tonight too.
Dude, considering how many times we've said, "Yo, fuck that fifth string wide receiver, we don't want him," and he scores a touchdown. That's happened many times this year. And yeah, maybe Moncrief will get you 2 touchdowns in this game, and no one will have him.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on here. We're gonna, Jesus, this is even. How is this a professional football team? The Patriots tight end position, Dalton King at Keene, sorry, whatever. It doesn't fucking matter what his name is. Dalton Keene at 1,400. Devin Asiasi at 1,000. I'm not gonna have a single effing lineup with either of these guys. I don't care. I don't care at all. Do we need to spend more than 10 seconds talking about this position here?
No, you want to go on to the next one?
Yes, exactly. And look, Ryan Izzo, I think, was questionable. I don't fucking know. Even if Ryan Izzo does play, I'm not playing him. So, Buffalo, Dawson Knox, Lee Smith did catch a touchdown, right? Yeah, he caught a touchdown earlier in the year. And Lee Smith was actually targeted. He might have actually caught a touchdown on one of those passes that got called back. I don't remember. I remember seeing him catch something and go, "Oh man, son of a bitch." So yeah, he did have opportunity for a touchdown reception there. At $400, he's worth 2 or 3 lineups. We've seen him get targeted in the red zone. We know he can catch a touchdown. Just got called back. Dawson Knox at 5,600. I think he'll be completely forgotten about, but he does have 3 touchdowns out of the last 4 weeks. So can we prioritize getting Knox at 15% ownership? And if he does score a touchdown, is that enough to even get you there at 12 fantasy points at 5,600?
I don't know, man. I feel like it's the same situation with him every week.
Yeah.
I guess my concern is if Tyler Kroft is actually back, that does pull some targets away from Knox, and I think he has a little less value to me. I'm hoping that Dawson Knox can get a little bit of a little bit more ownership, and people start buying into the recency bias, because then if he starts coming in 25% or higher, then I know I don't have to play him. You know what I mean? If he stays at 15%, I will have a couple lineups with him simply because it's just too cheap.
Yeah.
Or he's too low owned to not get him out there. And he is going to be used in the red zone from time to time, but I don't know, man. I think 5,600 is a little bit steep. I think I'd rather go Gabriel Davis at 5K.
Oh yeah, me too. So Tyler Kroft, we've been talking about him quite a bit. He ends up on every one of our injury reports, but he hasn't played since week 9, and he was a healthy scratch. He was a healthy scratch last week. So just keep that in mind. Even if he is healthy, he might not even just have an opportunity. They might not even play him. So I know that one of our we had someone comment that they accidentally played Kroft. Just pay attention to who's actually activated. I get Dawson Knox and Tyler Kroft mixed up. I don't know why. I just can't remember who's actually playing and who's not. But maybe that's probably good for me because I don't want to play Dawson Knox anyways. So kickers and defense here. Our favorite subject. You got Tyler Bass, kick his ass, Seabass at 3,800, which is a good price for him. I actually like Tyler Bass. He's been a pretty good fantasy. He has had some pretty good fantasy outputs this year. He can kick it deep. He gets you a few 50-yard field goals. I don't know if he's going to be needed in this game though, simply because I think the touchdowns are going to be relatively easy for this team, and you might only end up with like 4 or 5 extra points from Tyler Bass, maybe 130. 40-yard field goal. That's the problem. Like we say this every week. To me, with a higher total game like this, I know 47 isn't super high, but we're gonna have more. We're gonna have some scoring here. To me, there's not a lot of weather going on. There's no reason to assume that these kickers are gonna get more opportunity than typical. So I'm, like I say almost all the time, I'm more likely to fade kickers, but in this particular game, I'm open to have to be around the field or above the field with kickers in this particular game, especially Nick Folk. I know he's not great, but I don't see how the Patriots can actually, if they're on the 25, 30-yard line, how they can actually score a touchdown if Cam Newton can't pass the ball. So what do you think about kickers here?
So I like Tyler Bass. He's solid. I think one thing that we need to pay attention to is just the inconsistency that we saw in the Bills' offense, and they got into the red zone last week.
Yeah.
If that shit happens again, you can bet your ass that you're going to get a couple extra field goals when you shouldn't. So if you think that they cleaned up their discipline issues that quickly, I definitely think that should impact your exposure to Tyler Bass. Now, Nick Folk. Yeah, I think he's in play here too, and mainly the reason being is you have a run-strong offense against a team that's not great against the run, but an offense that also sucks dick. So there's a good chance they're not going to end up scoring touchdowns when they get inside the red zone. So that means they're probably going to end up stalling out and having to kick a couple field goals.
Yeah,
I can see Nick Folk being the highest scoring person on the Patriots, right?
Yeah.
So. There's ways that they can get there, and I don't know, man. I think both kickers are definitely in Slate or in play. Now, one thing to keep in mind: Buffalo is 5th in the league for penalties overall. So those are things that are going to impact your team's ability to not give up points, right? If they're on defense and they're committing holding or pass interference or any one of these things, right, you're going to give up yards. And Bill Belichick and those teams, they will capitalize on those kinds of opportunities. So I think that's something to plan for when it comes to playing these kickers and playing the defenses. I don't want either of them if they're going to be undisciplined to give up points.
If Nick Folk could potentially be a great, like a Jacoby Myers and Nick Folk lineup are the only Patriots, or I actually kind of really I like that. I like getting above the field on Nick Folk at like 15% ownership is what he's projected at. I kind of like that because I just don't see them being able to punch the ball on that often, and I think that Folk and a wide receiver makes you or James White or something makes you definitely different. So defense, 5,400 for the Bills. Pretty fair price. This defense is pretty good. I feel like they can cause some turnovers. They're pretty dynamic. Especially if we're talking about potentially Cam Newton getting benched, the dude throws interceptions, man. He carries the ball out. He can fumble. We've seen it. But even if Stidham comes in, then you're obviously talking about a blowout. Stidham can make big negative plays as well. So look, the Bills at 5,400. Are you going to get any of that? And Patriots, to me, I'm unchecking them because this Bills offense is just too good.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Bills defense is in play. I'm going to keep an eye on ownership. I just haven't seen too many lineups recently that have had defenses in the optimal, and the ceiling that you're putting on your team is automatically lower than pretty much any other player on the slate. So there's definitely opportunity cost tied to it, but obviously they're in a fairly decent position. I don't know how good they are, and this is a division rivalry. That's not something I necessarily want to predict. This is a tough time to quantify. It's the end of the season, playoffs on the line, and teams playing for pride. And
playoffs.
Usually, yeah, and teams playing with pride. I mean, we saw Josh McCown, like 2003, keep the Vikings out of the playoffs and at the last second for no reason, right? Did you go to that game? That's when Pastor Mark got us free tickets.
No, I didn't go to that game. I watched it on TV. That was pretty epic though. That just shows how sad Cardinals fans are. We remember a game like almost 16 years ago that we won to knock someone else out of the playoffs. That's how illustrious our team is. All right, so go ahead, bro. Go ahead. Let's move on to our fate tonight, but wrap this up.
No. That's what I was going to say. Let's move on.
Yeah, no, but I hear your point. Like with the 49ers against the Cardinals this weekend, like we don't a division rivalry. These guys are prideful players. You could expect a potential boost to the Patriots simply knowing that they're not going to win the division this year. It's kind of the end of their dynasty. Yeah. It's officially the end of their dynasty. So like there might be some extra points for them there.
This is professional sports, bro. This isn't fucking Alabama playing Texas Southern University, New Hampshire, right? Like these guys, these are all
that's an online school, right?
Right. Yeah, for sure. Right. These are all professional athletes who are playing because they have dedicated their lives to this. So It's always something to keep in mind.
Exactly.
What's your name? Tony! Fuck you, Tony!
Ellie, you're going to fade Cam Newton potentially, right? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm for sure going to fade him, man. Like it's if he's the third highest owned player on the slate, I feel like that's easy leverage. And I don't know, dude. After watching him play, after watching Drew Brees play, some of these guys are just washed now.
Yeah,
I don't know.
There's one narrative here with Cam Newton that this is his last opportunity to prove that he's a starting quarterback in the NFL. Maybe he comes out on national television and has one of these amazing games. I just don't see it happening. I like Cam Newton. I wish him the best. I hope that he signs with the team next year as a backup and can make some decent money to end his career. I just don't see him getting over this hump. I think he's done for. I don't think that he can operate an offense in which he needs to pass the ball more than 20 times. I think it's done for him. I agree with you. I'm going to fade him too. I'm also going to fade Sony Michel / Harris if both are active. So if Damian Harris is active, I'm fading both of them because I don't know where those. I'm more likely to say, you know what, screw both of these guys. I'm going to go with James White or I'm going to go with a wide receiver. I know that Cam Newton can't throw the ball, but he's gonna have to throw it 20 plus times in this game. I wouldn't be surprised if he threw it 30 times. Just because
it's 175 yards goes somewhere, yeah. So
look, 175 yards, maybe a passing touchdown, probably not. But look, those receptions, we're playing on Draftkings here. If Damiere Byrd or Jacoby Myers can get 7 receptions for 58 yards and maybe get a rushing end around touchdown, something, I'd rather go with those guys than getting the ball to Sony Michel 17 times for 14 yards. Like that's kind of where we're going here. I think. I know you're higher on Harris than I am for this particular game. I just don't see how they can get there if they're losing in this game, and I think they will be. All right, so let's move over to their Crown Their Ass segment.
Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass.
This is our favorite captain play on DraftKings. Ellie, you're going with Cole Beasley. We talked about it a little bit earlier in the show. Tell me about your Cole Beasley pick.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is just pure ownership. His projected ownership at the positions, it's single digits, and for me, that's a pretty big difference off of Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs in the captain spot. But I think for what you're paying for him, you're almost better off going up the $1,000 and paying for Diggs at the same spot, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I think honestly, these are probably the two best captain plays on the slate outside of Josh Allen, given this price tag. They're both gonna at least get 11 targets, and they're both gonna rack up 100 plus yards. So I think you just have to get this guy right? Which if it's only one of these guys that hits tonight, you have to get this guy right. Otherwise, you're done for.
Yeah. I mean, look, so I'm going with Stephon Diggs. Obviously, this isn't some sort of hot take. We all know that Stephon Diggs is probably the best player in this game besides Josh Allen. Stephon Diggs probably come in 15% owned, and the captain maybe a little higher. I mean, look, it all depends on the slate. Yesterday, I was heavy on A.J. Dillon at captain, who ended up being 3% owned in the captain or something like that. Now you're talking about a guy who's going to be the second highest owned captain on the slate. It all depends on the slate. And in this particular slate, Stephon Diggs, I just don't see how you can find a guy that's going to score more points than him in this particular game, considering the fact that he's probably going to get 8 or 9 receptions for 110 yards and at least a touchdown. I don't know how you can overcome that if the rest of this, the rest of the players are spread out fantasy points wise. So look, I like Stephon Diggs. I'm probably going to have 40%, maybe 30% Stephon Diggs of my lineups in the captain. But I also like Gabriel Davis a lot. Now that we've gotten news, I actually, if I were to make this slide up before the news came out, or I'm sorry, after the news came out about John Brown, this would be Gabriel Davis for me. Because at 5K, I think he's going to be the best way to build a balanced lineup without having to punt at 2 positions. And that's what you're going to have to do with Stephon Diggs. You're going to have to punt at 2 positions. So we're going to build a lineup with Diggs, Beasley, and I think we're going to want to build a lineup with Gabriel Davis and the captain. So let's do that right now. You ready?
Let's do it.
Who do you want to start with first?
You want to start with Gabriel Davis? I like that, actually.
Yeah, let's see what we can do with Gabriel Davis at captain. 7.5K at captain, and that leaves us with 8,500 remaining for each spot. That's a we're gonna have a lot of flexibility here. So we got to go Josh Allen. I really want to go Stephon Diggs. I think we're gonna have to fade Cole Beasley in this lineup.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we want to do let's build a 4-2 here. So let's go ahead and put in Nick Folk here. Don't you think? Just to start out. Or do you want to go?
Yeah,
or do you want to go? Do you want to go? Jacoby Myers instead.
Let's go with Nick Folk and see kind of where we land.
Okay. So Nick Folk. I kind of want to fade. I might fade Cam in this lineup. Don't you think?
Yeah, I'm okay with fading Cam in every lineup.
So let's talk about Singletary or Zach Moss. I feel like we got to throw one of these guys in for a team that's favored by 7.5, and you got to get it right. and technically, we could put both of these guys in this lineup if we wanted to, which would be a 5-1. But I'm more likely to just pick one of these guys. What do you think, Zach Moss here? Who do you like more?
I think for this kind of lineup, I would like Zach Moss because I think you're capturing pretty much all the offense that you're getting.
Yeah. So that leaves us with 7,900. We could go to Jacoby Myers here.
Jacoby Myers.
I mean, this is a nice build, dude. It's a really nice build. Gabriel Davis, to me, I think his ownership will obviously come up. We'll get an update here in a minute. But right now, he's being projected for less than 2% in the captain. So it doesn't matter who you play here. It makes absolutely no difference who you play in the flex. You could put all the chalkiest players. Every one of these guys could be the highest owned guys, and it won't matter because you're only competing with 1% of the field. So look, his projections don't look sexy, but like you're gonna need a ceiling game from Gabriel Davis. That's the bottom line. All right. So do you want to do any variations here, or do you want to just move on to the next guy?
Yeah, let's move on to the next guy because I feel like this obviously you can see the flexibility that you have. I mean, with 700 remaining on the table, you can swap in whatever running back you want.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, you want to get crazy, you could go McKenzie and jam in Cole Beasley still there. But I mean, obviously, you're getting super weird with that lineup.
Yeah, and if that's the case, if you have like 4 wide receivers from one team, then you probably want Josh Allen in the captain. You know what I mean? All right, so let's go Stephon Diggs here. Let's pair him up with Josh Allen. We're going to do this. We're going to put Josh Allen in every single one of these lineups. So this is where things get interesting. You've got 5,200 remaining per player. Where do we go here? We still want to do a 4-2 or potentially a 5-1. Should we jam in our Patriots option right now just to get an idea?
Yeah, so let's go with Nick Folk on this one. I think this is a good one for Nick Folk.
Okay. So Nick Folk. Do we want to go Isaiah McKenzie here at 800? We're going to need to find the value.
I would, yeah, absolutely.
All right, so who's next then? Look, this is not bad. 8,250 remaining, but we're going to have to consider. I think McKenzie is low enough owned that can make us unique, but as of right now, we're still not unique enough. We're going to have to find another under 15% owned guy to jam in here. So do we want to do that from the Patriots or do we want to do that from Buffalo?
Honestly, you've got enough salary here. I want Stephon Diggs and see if we can get different elsewhere.
Well, we got Stephon Diggs at captain.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Cole Beasley.
Okay. All right. So that gives us McKenzie. I mean, are we okay with this? We got Diggs in the captain and two other receivers in the flex. Is this too? Do we have to have Josh Allen in the captain if we're doing this, or what do you think?
No, you don't. Because the thing is Isaiah McKenzie can get his touchdown rushing or receiving.
Yeah.
Cole Beasley may not be getting the touchdowns. He could just get 12 targets or 12 receptions for 120 yards without the touchdown. He doesn't need that that touchdown to get those, and you're already capturing his yards. So if Stephon Diggs gets 10 for 120 and 2 touchdowns, I think you're fine overall.
So check this out. This is a chalky lineup for sure.
Yeah.
So look, James White fits perfectly in there. You got $300 remaining. This lineup will be duplicated 50 plus times, you think? Like this is going to be
probably
a heavily duped lineup. You have McKenzie there, and as of now, McKenzie's getting, what did I say, like 7-8% ownership, but I think that's going to boost up to probably 15%, maybe more with John Brown out. Maybe 15%, but still, you're going to need 2 15% or lower owned guys with Diggs in the captain in order to be unique. I love this lineup. This is a good single entry lineup. You probably still be do not enter this in a large field unless you want to potentially just make $14 for first place. But for single entry, I think this is pretty darn impressive, and this might be my single entry lineup that I do actually submit. But look, so you don't have Cam Newton in this lineup, so that is a little bit better. You may be a little bit more unique. But I'd have to run this through our process to really see what our, as we get closer to see what our actual dupes would be. All right, so now that we've got Diggs and we kind of see, we can still build a good lineup with Diggs. I feel like we can. So you want to throw Beasley in there?
Let's do it.
All right.
And then Josh Allen, obviously.
Yeah. And I mean, we have to play Diggs too. We just have to.
Yeah.
Look, you could get a lot of you could absolutely pivot. I don't think it's smart. Like a lot of times, doing some dumb shit in a showdown can help you, but I don't think fading Diggs is smart at all unless he breaks his toe in the first quarter. But we're not planning on injuries, even though whatever my highest exposed guy this week will get injured. I know it. It's just how it is. All right. So do you want to go okay? Well, what do we do here? Do we want to build one lineup with Cam Newton just to see if that's possible here?
Sure, go ahead and put him in.
All right, let's put Cam Newton in here. Beasley, Allen, Diggs, Newton. Who do we want? Who else do we want? Do we want to get a running back? Can we fit in Devin Singletary here? Or Zach Moss? No, we can't. Absolutely not. So if we want to play Cam Newton, we're going to have to just punt multiple more positions. I'm unchecking Cam Newton. I don't like that. I'd rather go with Devin Singletary or something here, and then come back unless you have another option.
So honestly, I mean, I think this is going to be another one of those chalkier builds. I feel like, but this is another situation where you can throw in James White, and
well, we can't. We're maxed out on salary actually.
Oh, you have Devin Singletary. Oh, okay. So yeah, look, if you're running Cole Beasley, I think, or Stephon Diggs, I think you really need to use Isaiah McKenzie as your punt. I mean, at $800, it's going to be the best way to go.
You're gonna have
to.
So
I think if we jam him in, then you get James White and Damiere Byrd.
Oh yeah, there you go. Get a little Damiere Byrd action. Yeah, that's not bad. Or you can go kicker for the Patriots if you want.
Right. And I mean, that's an ownership type thing, depending on whoever's lowest owned. But say let's see if we can get Devin Singletary was going to cost us too much. What if we did Zach Moss? Would we be able to get where we need to with this?
If instead of James White, I mean, we'd have to get rid of McKenzie. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you could do that.
Yeah. We can't really come up any higher off of McKenzie. See, that's the thing with these lineups and these expensive captains is you pretty much have to play one of these guys. Yeah. One of these guys under $1,000. Now, if we need another cheap guy, so in a situation like this, with Isaiah McKenzie. So if you take out Isaiah McKenzie, James White, and Damiere Byrd, go ahead and put in Zach Moss. And Well, see, this is getting crazy too. If we throw in Tyler Croft at 1,200,
now we've got 4, and now it's a 5-1. I mean, look, there's an absolute situation where a 5-1 can win. I think it's not out of the realm of possibility at all.
I don't even know if we can get a Patriots player in though. At that
Croft,
point,
2,800. Is there anybody for 2,800 that we would consider?
Dalton King.
Dalton King. No, I'm not doing that shit. Watch Dalton King's gonna have fucking 3 touchdowns today. All right,
Yeah.
so look, Beasley is my least favorite captain build. I'd say Gabriel Davis. Sorry, I completely blanked on his name. Gabriel Davis is my favorite so far. I want to build one more lineup, guys. So just hang on with us here. This is a good way to just kind of figure out our best overall captain and how the builds go along with them. I want to go with Singletary and see what we can do with Devin Singletary at the captain here. And you know what I want to do? I want to change up the game script a little bit. I want to go Zach Moss, and I want to go Josh Allen. You've captured every rushing touchdown, every rushing yard that's probably going to happen in this entire game for a team that's favored by 7.5 points. Not a single person in the world is going to have this. Well, there'll be some people, but not a lot of people are going to have this build just to start off. It's just not going to happen. You still have 6,200 remaining. I would like to still get Stephon Diggs here. It leaves us with 38 a pop. So if we go down to Folk, it leaves us with 4K, and we can get Damiere Byrd. Look at that shit.
I like that lineup.
I'm going to enter this lineup for sure. Singletary, Moss, Allen, Diggs, Folk, and Bird. This is a fun, good lineup here. And I don't think it's going to be duped that much, considering that probably Singletary will be less than 5% in the captain.
Yeah.
So that was such an easy build. I might continue to build more with Singletary because how low owned he is. And you're talking about he is technically the starting quarterback or starting running back for this team, right? I mean, I would consider him the starter, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he'll absolutely start this game. And again, we've seen it. He has breakaway speed, and he can break a long touchdown.
All right, Ellie. So let's send everyone out here. Thanks for sticking with us, guys. We appreciate it. Send us out with your final score and who's your favorite captain build, considering ownership and just the overall roster construction.
I mean, honestly, now it's probably between Gabriel Davis and Devin Singletary, or even Zach Moss. I mean, he is the upside as well. We don't know who's going to get the carries there. Yeah. So again, I think it's about being flexible at that position, like we have been all season with the Bills.
Yeah.
But final score, I got this one. I'm going to go 31-12, man. Buffalo, if that wasn't clear.
Yeah. I mean, anything can happen in a division rivalry game. We've seen it happen. I just don't think Cam Newton has the juice left to throw for a touchdown or two, and he's going to need to. There's no way that this team could win this game if he doesn't throw for 2 touchdowns. So I'm going to say 35-17. I'm going to give them a little bit more points than they probably can score, but I'm going to stick right around with Vegas. I'm just going to go 17 points to them. And I think McKenzie could be your deep GPP, the St. Brown of this slate. I think Isaiah McKenzie could be that guy. Tell me what your thoughts are on do you agree with me that McKenzie could be that deep dart?
Yeah, I think he's more like a St. Brown type of guy, like a reception or 2 for a touchdown, like 10, 15 yards. But hopefully he's A.J. Dillon.
Yeah, exactly. All right, guys. So in the comments, let us know how you guys did last night, and also let us know how what your thoughts are on your favorite captain. What was your favorite build that we threw out there today? We want to interact with you guys. We want to hear what your guys' thoughts are. So please comment, hit us up on Twitter, join our Discord. Thanks, man. See you guys later.